Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to another episode of Big Decisions for Anfield Index. It's been a red hot minute for Liverpool, hasn't it? Ever since that defeat to Chelsea, which, let's be honest, we didn't really care about too much. There's been announcements, there's contract talk, there's transfer names being linked. It does feel like everything is gearing towards the summer a little bit now, doesn't it? Yes, we will celebrate well before that. It will be a spectacular last day. But there's a lot more things to consider than just that coming up, isn't there? So we'll be getting into all that and talking players, contracts, transfers, and ultimately, ladies and gents, the big decisions that you have to make. I'm your host, Dave Davis, coming to you from flipping glorious in Edinburgh. Can't lie at all. Absolutely sweltering. Even at this time in the evening, the sun is still shining. Wish I'd had a barbecue now, but it is what it is. Hopefully, it is nice wherever you are in the world. You know how we do it on Big Decisions? We have three big topics. We have a look, we have a chat, we make some big calls. You lot in the chat panel completely disagree. Life goes on. So let's get right into it. There's only one place to start, isn't there? Trent Alexander-Arnold and the news that came out yesterday that he is leaving Liverpool. Quite honest, or not, in the case of how people see this, there's polarized camps, isn't there? And to be honest, I said it yesterday on Newsround, and other people have almost said it, afterwards, and it's completely correct. Everyone's got a right to feel the way they feel. Liverpool fans are sick of being told by multiple pundits, by multiple national journalists, how they should feel about this, especially people on the outside looking in who've got no idea about the full circumstances and full chain, just looking at it from their small point of view. So, yeah, you feel how you want to feel about this. And there's extreme opinions, and I ain't saying they're wrong for one single second, but you've got a right to feel how you feel. The second big thing, which I'm not moving from at all, stick to the facts. This is a player who's been interviewed and said he wanted to be captain of Liverpool. This is a player who's been interviewed and said it means more when you win with your local side, a club that you grew up in. So that's factual as well. There's a question mark around this, I think, for many of how the club have handled it. Now, they did an interview, they filmed it with him, they sat down, and there's probably just a few bits I want to pull from this if you haven't seen it already. Can you explain the decision to our supporters? That opening question. So let's just see what Trent said. I think first and foremost, I want to say it's not an easy decision. There's a lot of thought and feeling that's gone into it. I've been here 20 years now and loved every single minute of it. Achieved all my dreams, given everything day in, day out for 20 years. I've got to a point where I feel like I need a change, a new challenge for me as a player and as a person. And I think now is the right time for me to do that. Now, the club have let him present this, haven't they? And, give his full interview, full discussions. And we'll get into a little bit more of, I think, I could be wrong, but how the majority of us see that and how believable the phrase I'm going to use is on this. I can see the chat panels buzzing on this already. How do you see it? One of the big decisions, the way the club have played this, the way the club have made that interview with him, almost rolled out the full sort of emotional video, allowed it. How do you see that? Again, it's maybe an opinion question. It's not ultimately a right or a wrong. You could see it different ways, of course. But for me, my opinion again, and people, honestly, when I make this call, I'm not telling anyone how to think. I'm telling you my take. You are entitled to think whatever you want. But for this, I'm not a big fan of them rolling out the bunting, I have to be honest. This, to me, feels like the club should have done the announcement, because you have to confirm it, how it's done. They've also known it for a while because, as has come out and transpired, that Trent officially spoke to Arne Slot in that March international break. I get why they've maybe waited till now and done it, but give him a full interview. Give him this video. Give him all this type of thing. I'm not sure. I think they could have just done it as like a line, a communication, a little bit more, and nothing else. I just don't fit. I'm going to be honest. I've read little bits of it, and I wanted to bring up just that part because that was the key bit on the screen and read it to you there if you're listening. But I'm not going to watch the video. I'm not going to watch the full interview and everything he says because it's been a hard decision. That there's bits go into it around, well, why did he sign a 4-year deal? I'm sure you've all seen the video of his brother at Wembley. Not a popular person, not a popular name particularly as well. People have read into that. Again, can agree or disagree. You also think about the various bits, the pointing to his head, the mouthing, all the celebration, all the things that have gone into it and have allowed to have been dragged on and on is the key thing for me. So that is a part of my big decision why I'm not sure they've handled it in the best way. Could disagree. However, this is probably, I think, for many, why people are now ultimately suspicious. And I'm steering into this as well. As Paul Joyce and others have reported, as late yesterday, when this news, came out, Real Madrid are speaking to Liverpool about getting Trent Alexander-Arnold before the Club World Cup. Now, that starts officially on the 15th of June, so just over a month away, and how much they're prepared to pay. So this is the big decision for me. When and how much is it for Trent? Now, there's so many question marks around this. For a start, do you let him play those last 3 games? Do you have him in the squad at all? People are mixed on that. If he stays for those 3 games and past, Trent at the parade. How's that one received? And listen, as I'm saying this, you'll have all seen it, and no one should be telling anyone how to feel, but a lot of scouts, a lot of locals have, really painfully hurt and burnt by this. They're entitled to that opinion. The only thing I say in all of this is, again, don't change facts. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. Part of it hurts because he's an incredible player. The things he can do with his right foot are just, we've had those experiences. So let's not reinvent history at all. But this bit is what I really want to get into. How much? A lot of feel he sold his soul to Real Madrid, hasn't he, a little bit, and goes from there. How much should we be looking for? Should we be doing it even? Should we have a clean break and let him see out his contract? Here's my honest take on this. I think we should get something. Why shouldn't we? Anything that we could get, call it even a couple of million, it's booked as profit. It's absolutely booked as profit under, PSR and all those types of things. Also, why should we pay his wages all the way up till the 30th of June, which is apparently, according to the details, when that contract ends? I just don't see any point in that regard. If you can get a little bit, let's do it. Let's move the transfer window on quickly. Let's, and I don't get people are saying, even a few in the chat panel, about no, let him see it out and all that. I just feel Liverpool are being dictated to a little bit on this in terms of the way the interview's been given. They've let that come out. Yes, they have a say ultimately, but he said now what's happening. It's time to play hardball. It's time to get as much as you can out of Real Madrid. I mean, whether you see Trent in a Real Madrid shirt on the 15th of June, or whether you see Trent in a Real Madrid shirt on the 30th of June or past. Does it actually make that difference to you? Now, the figure there is 1 million. I think that's a starting point for negotiations. But ultimately, when it says Trent leaving, but when on the screen, my big decision is get what you can and move it on quickly. And actually, Conor Bradley should be starting those 3 games. And I get people saying you want the highest points total, play the best team. But for me, this is done now. This is about what's good overall for the team and the squad. And Conor Bradley's a slightly different discussion about first choice right back. But for this one, get what you can and move Trent on as efficiently as possible. We'll see what develops with this. Contract-wise is the second big decisions topic. And on this, Liverpool have got plenty of contracts to sort. I keep seeing this, that Salah, Virgil van Dijk, done. Brilliant news. Good news, as Ornstein said. A big summer started. Of course it is. However, let's not get carried away. There's plenty of players with a year or 2 left to go. Plenty of players who we're talking to are existing players that we're trying to sort. I mean, the Luis Diaz one is a bit of a conundrum, isn't it? Is that real? I'm not trying to doubt the source, but it comes from, it's Colombia, and a lot of suggestions that it's from Diaz's camp more than anything leaking that to engineer things. But yeah, there is a question mark around Luis Diaz. Discussed that the other day, so that's actually not the one I'm going to get into too much. The first one is the importance of Ibrahima Konate. And he tweeted, didn't he, or put a comment on Trent's Instagram saying it's a big L. Well, I tell you what, will be a massive, ginormous big L is if Ibu leaves this summer. Said it on numerous shows about, we've seen the reports on Dean Huijsen. I'm just a little nervous on that is starting to have the feeling if it does happen, it's an Ibu replacement. It's more important to renew Ibu than it is to sign Dean Huijsen. Yes, we want both. Of course we want both. And I've done it before, and I don't know if people listen or read or whatever on FB Ref. Huijsen has a ginormous ceiling, such potential. You've seen it already with your eyes, and it would be such a useful addition. But it's not a great... It's not a great scenario if he's coming in to replace Ibu. I think that's a massive L. I really do, across the board. So we've got to get that one sorted straight away. And also when you look at other contracts, Robbo, I'm not touching that one at all. We all know what we think of that one. Ibu's got a year left. Then you're moving into the 2 years. Alisson apparently does have, or the club have an option of the year. So we could do that to 2028. And I was really heartened by that Taffarel interview the other day. So that made me excited. There's no worry around that. In fact, I'm going to skip right the way down because I think most are, people have got strong opinions on. But it's these 2 players just to call out. Conor Bradley and Curtis Jones. And I think it's important in terms of the conundrums we've got just to break these individuals down. Now, Conor Bradley, when I put him on the screen, it's unfair to compare him to Trent Alexander-Arnold. It's unfair to even bring that into the mix. But I'm seeing a lot of, he'll be first choice right back. We're covered there. We'll get and people just saying that. I don't see it that way. I think Liverpool need a first choice right back, or one who's at least the level of Conor Bradley, probably a bit higher, and make him sort of challenge again in that way. And some of you can see already are disagreeing about Conor Bradley. When you look at his stats, I get it. There's a lot of green on his FB Ref profile, and you look at progressive carries, the 98th percentile, touches in the attacking penalty area, 4.69 a game, 99th percentile, the ability to overlap, the ability to underlap. A lot of you like that. I get it. But Conor Bradley isn't Trent Alexander-Arnold. Conor Bradley has had a lot of injury issues in the last year and a half. Really, probably 2 seasons, actually. Because if you think, last season, Jurgen Klopp's final one, he was injured for a long period at the start of the season. It took him a while to work in. So there's that. We've seen all the muscle injuries that have happened recently. Now, in terms of his contract, this is important to say. We mentioned this on the transfer show. He is paid in football terms, not in real world terms, but in football terms, a pittance. It's well known. And Liverpool are looking to get that renewal done. Now, that renewal is now made harder by Trent Alexander-Arnold confirming what he's doing, and also the way they've dealt with it. Because we said on the transfer show, Conor Bradley has turned down Liverpool's first offer. In fact, it was pretty much laughed at, the first offer that was put to him, because Liverpool are telling Conor Bradley, this is your chance to be their first choice right back, really move up. We know Trent's paid over 200 grand a week. We know Conor Bradley currently is on a pittance in football terms, not real world terms. Let's, be honest on that. So this isn't an easy contract to negotiate in that charge, bearing in mind where Liverpool want to go with this. So this is a bit of a conundrum, this one. Everyone's just got, he'll stay, and he's a Liverpool fan, all true. But he ain't going to stay for a pittance. And how much is Conor Bradley worth? Trent, the first choice right back, was one of Liverpool's top earners. What level, what amount do you put on Conor Bradley? This is honestly a big one to watch for me. Everyone's just putting this, this will get signed automatically, and it might well do. But don't be sleeping on this one at all. And the second one, he had a stinker the other day. Absolute stinker against Chelsea. But the other Scouser in the team, Curtis Jones. Now, this, again, is not straightforward because it's well known Curtis is on a low wage, again, in football terms. The other Scouser in the team has only 2 years left to go in the summer. Curtis is also looking at his competition within the team. And it's no secret, is it? Szoboszlai and Alexis McAllister are on big contracts. They came in on very good wages. We know Ryan Gravenberch also came in on good wages. So Curtis is looking at that in terms of, well, I'm one of those 4. And listen, you can chat panel's buzzing, innit? You can all debate about whether you feel he's, 4th in ranking, squad player and all this. But for the minutes and the performances, you are talking about a player that's played over 2,000 minutes this season. And at times has got big goals, had a big impact. It again feels like one of those seasons where he's a proper peaks and troughs player, Curtis, isn't it? I think it's fair to say. And maybe it's just a real trough at the moment. But the reason I'm mentioning him as a contract conundrum, so many stats are to like, and look at that. I mean, pass completion, 93%, 99th percentile. He keeps the ball very well. Probably too long, as a lot of people will say, in terms of what development he needs. But as we mentioned on the transfer show, Curtis Jones has turned Liverpool's first offer down. Again, a Liverpool fan. Again, someone who we know wants to stay at the club. But it is not that simple. Because Curtis Jones, you can imagine those conversations as being told, you're Scouser, you've come through our academy, we love you, you're an important part of our midfield. And whether it's, of course, his agent or whoever's saying it, well, that's great. So are you going to put him on parity with the Gravenberchs, the McAllisters, the Szoboszlais? Liverpool won't want to do that. Liverpool won't want to jump his wages from what they are now to those levels, well over 100 grand a week. They're not going to want to do that. But again, Curtis will be arguing, or his agent will look at the homegrown thing, that it's not a big deal as people make out, but I have that. Do you want to, a second Scouser potentially at risk in the team? Other clubs do like him, and I'm an England international as well, so he commands a premium. That also will come into Liverpool's mind as well. just to be clear, when we've talked about this, everyone has said our contracts are at least sort of sorted. Well, the big ones are. You know what's happening with Virgil. You know what's happening with Mo. You know what's happening with Trent. But the big question marks now, isn't there, about three? Ibu, the priority. Of course it is. We know that how big that is. But all I'm saying is for these two, don't be sleeping on what's happening with Connor Bradley and Curtis Jones. These need to be sorted, or we know how the suits work. They don't like to go into those final 2 years, ideally. They won't be happy with the situation they've inherited, as we know. They've, a lot for them to sort, a lot for them to do. So just on this one, well, on this three, just keep an eye on this contract conundrums. This is not done at all. I don't care what anyone says. And I can understand if there's a few nerves around some of these as well, especially Ibu. Tell you what, though, on a lighter note, the summer. Transfers, links, all those types of things. Big decision, I'm just calling it. It's all right to be excited. Of course it is. There seems to have been this thing that people are saying, oh, you're not enjoying it properly if you're excited over transfers. I go to the games, and that, doesn't mean people who don't go to the games are less excited or anything like that. But I'm buzzing all the time. Last Sunday, just gone, was the best day ever in my Liverpool life, as it was for many other Reds. It was such a unique experience. We're excited about the Guard of Honour Arsenal are going to give us and these other games. Of course we are. We're looking forward. We've planned that party after the Palace game. It's going to be absolutely rotten. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't be excited about transfers or starting to wonder who's coming in, what might be happening. Of course you should. You're totally entitled to that. You're entitled to think, now we've won number 20, how do we go about getting number 21? Nothing wrong with that at all. And if you look at the names that are drifting in, it's almost trying to keep on top of them a little bit. And listen, names come from everywhere, don't they? Someone who does your missus's nails, or, sort of you a vajazzle the other day, knows someone's brother's cousin who's a scout in an office and all that type of thing. Names come from everywhere. So you're starting to look at who's reliable, who do you face into, who do you want to manifest a little bit as well. But just some big things that have come up in the last sort of few days. David Ornstein was on NBC, wasn't it? Sports, and did a full breakdown of Liverpool, talking about the Trent situation. But what he also did was named a few players. So this is, people, have a lot of respect, quite rightly, for David Ornstein. So he mentioned Kirkes and said he seems the leader, the front runner for that left-back spot, but it's not certain. Keep an eye on other names as well. He also mentioned, as per you've seen on this screen, Jeremie Frimpong, Bayer Leverkusen, Holland, right wing back, I think it's fair to say, in their system under Xavi, would be keen on a move to Liverpool if they decide to go down that route. And he has a €35 million release clause. Would count as homegrown, wouldn't he, because of the time at City, working their way through that academy. But this one, people have really jumped into this one. He'd be keen on a move to Liverpool if they decide to go down that route. Of course he freaking would. We're going from Leverkusen to the champions of England. That's no disrespect to Leverkusen, but there's levels to it. Of course he'd be keen. Also, he knows all the Dutch boys in the squad, doesn't he? Van Dijk, Grav, Cody Gakpo. He pals with them all. You've seen that, all the clips which people jumped into. He'd be keen. Of course he would. Should we be as keen, though? I mean, attacking metrics for a fullback, different system, get that all out your system, assists, blah, blah, all that out right now. But look at them defensive metrics for a fullback. Not in the 6th best in the world, in the 6th percentile against other fullbacks for tackling, in the 3rd for interception. His highest defensive metric is blocks at 37th percentile. And when you look who he's compared to, there's some top fullbacks in there as well. Just to be clear, Defending isn't the name of his game by any means. I'm sure for those who've seen Leverkusen a few times, you'll know that. But for all the people getting excited around this one, imagine Kirkez and Frimpong at fullback. Van Dijk, and if it's still Konate, would need them inhalers, the mad ones that Pep was, panning around just to survive. So keep that in mind, first of all, when you hear that name. Second name, I genuinely never thought I'd say this at all. Shout out to Steele, who revealed this on TikTok. I thought that was that mad one where people just did the stupid dance, or my missus goes for lemon drizzle cake recipes apparently now and again. But as per a briefing, what a time to be alive. Patch Journos on TikTok, but said Nico Williams, the Bilbao and Spanish international winger, is one to keep an eye on for Liverpool. People got excited by this one as well, didn't they? And I get it. Would have seen him in the Euros, one of the key parts of Spain winning. Pacey, we've seen him in the Europa quite a bit. Well followed and linked. And I get all that. I do understand all that. I understand people who get excited by a fast winger who's in the 98th percentile for successful take-ons, the 94th percentile for progressive carries. He's electric, isn't he? Even in shot-creating actions, he is in the 89th percentile as well. So I get all that. Fast attacking wingers who take on players will always be exciting. Of course they will. And people will look at things like his age, 22. All that adds into the mix. And it's a respectable patch. Jeremie, Lewis Steele also mention him. So, all that goes as ingredients. However, he scored 10 goals. Have a look at his overall career goals. That doesn't ultimately define him, don't get me wrong. But if you're thinking he's going to be one of the ones that could replace Luis Diaz, as a lot of people are steering into, just think about that. Do you know what? If you like him, or he's the one you like or want to come in for Diaz, power to you. It's right to be excited, but it's right to just be balanced a little bit on this. Yeah, especially when you're talking about players that are young. And the other things just to keep in mind on Nico Williams, massive wages at Bilbao. Don't doubt that for 1 second. And there's a lot of talk that he's always wanted to stay in Spain, isn't there? That, a family boy, his brother plays for the club, initially was linked with Barcelona, and that's where he wanted to go last summer. So would he be that keen to move out of England? Out of Spain, even to England, for massive wages that it would take for a guy whose goal record, you check it yourself if you don't believe me, maybe has a few question marks. Doesn't mean you can't be excited, though. But, yeah, another name in the mix. Another name that came up in the last sort of 40 hours that got traction. James Pearce mentioned it, that Stuttgart midfielder Angelo Stiller, German international, left-footed. This was a player Liverpool looked at after Zubimendi fell through. So he's already been on the radar. And as a lot of people have mentioned, the local Stuttgart newspaper, I'm not even going to try and pronounce that because I'll mess it up, but a reliable source, according to many, has said that Stuttgart won at least 60 million euros. So around 50 million quid-ish for them to consider a sale. It's all right to be excited about this one. It's all right to be excited about a player that's in the 98th percentile for progressive passes. It's all right to be excited about a player who's in the 97th percentile for passes attempted. And even his attacking one, expected assisted goals, shot creating actions there. Look at that. Nearly 4 a game, 91st percentile. Of course, it's all right to be excited about players like that. If you watch him, very, very good on the ball. An eye sees a pass, and with Trent leaving, it's natural to think, well, there's our most creative player, 0.3 XT, as the nerds will reference, the best in the Premier League. Look at Stillers if you want to check on that. Deep line playmaker, get it. Off the ball, though. Okay. 52nd percentile for clearances is best compared to other midfielders. You got blocks at 40, but more interceptions, you think, for our double pivot, 35th percentile. There's question marks there. And a lot of people who you talk to around German football will say it's off the ball where his concerns come in. Not the quickest by any means. You can see the metrics on the Bundesliga page. If you want to look at his top speed, might want to look at his top speed. So all this goes into the mix, again, for a player like that. Doesn't mean you can't be excited. Doesn't mean it might not be your choice, or it might be your choice on that. We've got an update on him on the transfer show, but you horny buggers can wait till Thursday for that, in all honesty. And then the other one that's really come up recently, reports across Germany. Lewis Steele, to be fair, mentioned it, didn't he, that Liverpool had scouts at the Red Bull Bayern game, watching Xavi Simons and Benjamin Sesko. But it's more Sesko that's now come up in the news. Philip Heinze and a few other sources in Germany saying the release clause for this player now exceeds 80 million. But it could also move without the clause. The fee could be negotiable depending on the payment structure, i.e., it could be the add-ons, maybe we're getting a bit more than the clause, but favourable, paying it over the 5 years, could be interesting for clubs. But screw other clubs, we're talking about Liverpool, aren't we? And people are really mixed on this one. Maybe we've got Darwin Núñez PTSD, who knows? But you saw the game at the weekend, or if you didn't, he scores an outrageous one, doesn't he, with the keeper out, and people will look at that and got excited by that one. I ain't hot on Sesko. If you are, I get why you'd be excited. You'd be saying, look at the frame of nearly 2 meters tall. Look at what he's doing at 21 years old, and he's got a decent goals record. 17 goals, 5 assists across the Premier League and the Champions League. Yeah, he's got a few more German Cups, so 20 plus season. So that goes into the mix. Rapid, absolutely rapid. You can see his metrics there for the Bundesliga. People will also say, look, his successful take-ons, 80th percentile, non-penalty goals are the name of the game, 74th percentile. Great in the air, 71st percentile as well. Could help from all that. I get it. But he's raw. Doesn't pass it too much. Doesn't complete, pass completion in the 26th percentile. Arne Slot also said he's looking for a facilitator. Those are Arne Slot's words. He ain't that. Doesn't mean he's a bad player. But Sesko at a package for 90 million euros. If you're excited by it, power to you. This is not for a second saying all these players are crap and we shouldn't sign any of them. It's just looking a bit deeper, isn't it? And it's right to be excited at the moment, but we should be looking and thinking hard. Are these the right players for Liverpool? We want to deliver 21 next season. That's the big thing to consider. So all that goes into the mix as well. The final thing I'll say on transfers is it's late at night now. Steady on a little bit, because later this evening, there'll be some bigger news dropping. Okay? Just keep an eye on the names, plural, and the stories that drop later. That's all I'm really going to say on that. For those of you that have watched, listen, the chat panel's been buzzing. I'm sorry to try and get everything in. I know I've not been able to show that as much as I usually can. So mea culpa for that. But it was about getting these things in. For transfers and excitement, lean into it. Have fun. It ain't that deep right now. What is deep is who comes and are we close to 21? The Trent thing, you're all entitled to your opinion. Don't let anyone tell you any different. Okay? And contracts, yes, there's some big ones sorted, but there's some big ones to sort as well still. Let's not take our eye off the ball on that. Let's hope some of those get resolved quickly and effectively. We will see what that brings. We'll see what this week brings, because something's breaking every day at the moment, isn't it? But on Tuesday, the 6th of May, that was another big decisions